The passengers were already settled, the soft hum of engines filling the cabin. In seat 17A sat Tariq Johnson, a 16-year-old exchange student from Ghana. It was his first solo flight, his first time leaving home, and he was both terrified and thrilled. He practiced English phrases quietly under his breath, the ones his host family had taught him. "Excuse me, where is the restroom? Can I have water, please?" When the flight attendant passed, Tariq smiled shyly. Excuse, can I have water, please?" The woman, blonde, sharp-featured, mid-30s, tilted her head and smirked. "I'm sorry, what was that?" Tariq repeated, nervous now. "Water. Please." Her grin widened. "Oh, you mean water," she said, drawing out the word. "We speak English here, honey." A few passengers chuckled. Tariq felt his ears burn. "Yes, ma'am. English." She laughed softly. "Sure you do." He turned toward the window, blinking back tears. But what no one expected, not the attendant, not the passengers, was that a few rows up sat someone who would change everything about that flight. Because in less than an hour, the intercom would come on, and every passenger would hear a voice that would silence the cabin, and teach everyone on board a lesson they'd never forget. Tariq tried to focus on the view, the endless blue sky, anything to distract from the humiliation. He thought of his mother's words before he left Ghana. "Hold your head high, my son. You speak with pride. Your accent is not weakness, it's your story." But now, on this flight, surrounded by laughter and whispers, that pride was fading fast. As the attendant moved down the aisle, a woman across the aisle leaned over to Tariq. "I'm sorry about that," she whispered. "That wasn't right." Tariq forced a small smile. "It's okay." But it wasn't. The attendant returned later with a tray. She placed a cup of water in front of him, hard enough that it splashed. "Here you go, water," she said under her breath. Tariq looked down. "Thank you." Behind him, two teenagers giggled. "Maybe he should stick to his own language," one said. The words cut deep. Near the front of the plane, Captain Amelia Ross, one of the youngest pilots in the airline's history, overheard part of the exchange over the crew intercom chatter. Her co-pilot looked over. "Everything okay back there?" Amelia frowned. "Not yet." She had joined this airline with one mission: to lead with empathy. She'd grown up in a small Louisiana town, raised by a mother who taught English to international students. She knew accents weren't mistakes. They were melodies of culture. So when she heard the mockery continue, she quietly reached for the intercom control. But she waited, she wanted to be sure. An hour into the flight, lunch service began. Tariq tried again to interact. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Can I have the chicken meal?" The flight attendant raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Chicken," he repeated. "Oh, you mean chicken," she mocked. "Your English is interesting." This time, her tone wasn't even subtle. The woman across the aisle stood up slightly. "Ma'am, that's enough." The attendant turned. "Excuse me? You heard me. He's a kid. Stop embarrassing him." The attendant scoffed. "Mind your business." A few heads turned. The tension spread like static through the cabin. Tariq shrank into his seat, whispering, "Please, it's okay." But it wasn't okay. And in the cockpit, Captain Ross decided she had heard enough. She reached for the intercom. The seatbelt sign chimed softly. The captain's voice filled the speakers, calm and warm. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Ross speaking from the flight deck. I'd like to take a brief moment to share something important." The flight attendant froze mid-step. Passengers looked around, curious. "Today, we have on board a young man who reminds me why I chose this career. You see, when I was 16, I spent a summer in Ghana as an exchange student. I was the one with the accent. I was the one people laughed at when I spoke their language imperfectly." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Tariq looked up, eyes wide. "But what I learned," the captain continued, "is that every accent tells a story, of courage, of travel, of dreams bigger than fear. And I want to thank the young man in seat 17A for reminding me of that. Silence. You could hear a pin drop. To anyone who ever feels mocked for how they speak, remember, your voice is not broken. It's beautiful. And as captain of this flight, I expect that everyone on board treats it that way. The intercom clicked off. Every passenger turned toward Tariq. The woman across the aisle smiled through tears. That was for you, she whispered. The flight attendant stood frozen, her face pale. She approached slowly. I'm sorry, she stammered. I didn't mean to. Tariq looked up, his voice small but steady. You did mean to. But I forgive you. Her lip trembled. Thank you. The passengers around them began to clap softly. And as the sound spread through the cabin, Tariq finally felt what his mother had promised. Pride. Not in his words, but in his voice. When the flight landed, Captain Ross waited by the door. As Tariq stepped off, she smiled warmly. Seat 17A, right? He nodded shyly. Yes, ma'am. She extended her hand. You reminded everyone today what respect sounds like. Don't ever lose that. He grinned. Thank you, Captain? She winked. No, thank you. By the next morning, the video was everywhere. A passenger had recorded part of the captain's message. Headlines read, Pilot stands up for teen mocked for his accent. In-flight message goes viral. Tariq's story reached millions. But when journalists asked him what it meant, he said something that stopped people in their tracks. In my country, we're taught to listen before we laugh. Maybe that's what the world needs to learn too. The airline issued a public apology. The flight attendant resigned and later wrote a personal letter to Tariq, thanking him for showing her the meaning of grace. And Captain Ross? She became a symbol of quiet leadership, proof that true authority isn't about rank or title, but about using your voice to lift others. What would you have done if you heard someone being mocked for their accent? Would you have stayed silent, or spoken up like Captain Ross? Tell me in the comments, your voice matters. If you believe kindness and respect should fly higher than arrogance, hit like, share, and subscribe for more real stories that reveal courage, compassion, and the power of a single voice. Because sometimes, the loudest sound on a plane isn't the engine. It's the truth coming through the intercom.